By the way, if you're considering buying a Polestar 2 or any new vehicle, I can help you narrow your vehicle search to just 3 to 5 cars by curating a customized list of vehicle recommendations that fit your needs. Visit drakemoscow.com/buying a car to see how I can help you find your new car. This is the 2024 Polestar 2, and it's a bit of an interesting vehicle. You see, it shares a platform with the Volvo XC40 because Polestar is Volvo's all-electric company. They are both owned and funded by the Chinese company Geely. The 2 has received a few updates for the 2024 model year. There is now a body color grille, which is the biggest visual change, and there are range improvements across the board. This is the single motor rear wheel drive 2. It goes 320 miles per charge and makes 299 horsepower. There's also a dual motor all wheel drive Polestar 2 that goes 276 miles per charge and makes 421 horsepower. And on top of that, there's a dual motor performance Polestar 2 that makes 455 horsepower and goes 247 miles per charge. But there are a lot of electric vehicles on sale today, especially in the compact-ish sedan luxury market. So how does the 2 stand up to all of the competition? Well, it's not bad in any way, but it is a little awkward. Being based on a gas vehicle, the packaging isn't as efficient as some of its competitors. And because that gas vehicle, the Volvo XC40, is a crossover and Polestar decided to make this one look like a sedan, it also just is weird looking. It's slightly taller than all other sedans on the market, especially the Tesla Model 3 and BMW i4, which this car kind of competes with. The window line is higher and every just element of the car is just a little bulkier and taller, but it still has a sedan profile. It's kind of like the Toyota Crown, and it kind of gives it an ugly duckling look. As I said, this is a liftback and it has an automatic raising trunk, and there's a healthy amount of storage back here. But I'm more of a sedan guy, and I like having a sedan because your cargo area is then secure and it can't be accessed if the window, say, is broken into. But you don't get that here. And one of the benefits of a crossover is that keeping the roofline flat until the very end of the vehicle gives you a lot more space. But you also don't get that here. So it's kind of just a weird decision on Volvo's part. I know that this body style is pretty popular, like the Sportback-esque body style, but they gave it much more of a 3-box sedan look than like a swoopy Sportback look. So it's just, in my eyes, a kind of weird design. Sitting in the Polestar 2, I do really like the interior design. I think it looks really nice. Minimalistic, but less so than Tesla. But there are a few small things that I really don't like about this interior. First off, there's a single cup holder. The door bins are not big enough for my water bottle, so only a single cup holder is a detriment. But then you also don't get a center armrest if you want to access your single cup holder. That is just really poor design. I really like having a center armrest while driving. I like putting my hand about here at like the 4 o'clock position on the steering wheel. And if I have a water bottle, I don't get to do that. So that's pretty annoying. I stand corrected. There are actually 2 cup holders in the front of the Polestar 2. One, as I said, underneath the armrest, and the other is actually what would be your center console. So you can fold the lid away, and then there is another cup holder here. So you can remove the cup holder mold and then just have a normal center console. It's pretty small though, and just 1 cup holder. But if you do want a second cup holder, you can slide this into place, and this is just the cloth to clean the screen. And then this closes up, but you do have to have this open to access the second cup holder. Either way, this is not a good design. There are ways to have cup holders while not sacrificing a center console or an armrest, and I'm assuming they're going to fix that for the next generation because I bet they're getting a lot of feedback because this is not good. Secondly, the center console kind of juts out to make way for this screen, which I do really like the screen, but because it juts out so much, I at 6'2", when I'm driving, my knee is kind of banging up against this center console. I wish there's not enough space basically for my knee. It's really just the sides of this center console that are in the way, so that's pretty annoying. I also don't love the seat materials. This is not the nicest Polestar 2 you can get, or Polestar 2 single motor. This is like a mid-tier package attached to the single motor trim level. So these feel like, I don't know, like a wetsuit. They're not very nice feeling. Cloth seats even would be better feeling than this material. And there are like scratchy plastics not that far out of your reach. There are some nicer materials. The steering wheel feels nice. There's this nice open pore wood trim, and I do really like the sound system. It's not the Bowers & Wilkins that you get on some Volvos, but it is a Harman Kardon system that sounds really good. And again, this screen is really nice. It's really close to you, so it's really easy to use while driving. And if you don't have a water bottle, it's really easy to just anchor your arm here and then touch the screen and use the screen accordingly, because all of your climate controls are in the screen, which can be really annoying on a lot of cars, and it's really hard to adjust climate controls in a screen on a lot of cars. But because you have a place to anchor your arm, again, if you don't have a water bottle, then it makes that a lot easier. The fully digital instrument cluster is also pretty nice. These stocks, though, are feeling a bit dated. These are the Volvo stocks, and I don't like all of the piano black in here. It's all of the buttons on the steering wheel, and even the hazard button, which I thought had to be a physical button. It's more of a haptic button. It's piano black, gloss black, and I've already noticed a lot of fingerprints all throughout the car. I do like the glass sunroof, but there are just a few materials in here that feel cheap and a few decisions that were pretty short-sighted. Getting into the back of the Polestar 2, this is really where you start to feel the packaging issues of this car. The door opening just isn't very big. I struggled to get in and out of this car at 6'2". And closing the door, you see I don't have a whole lot of room. I do have like enough knee room behind my ideal driving position, but the floor is kind of high, so I don't have really any foot room underneath that seat. And sitting upright, my head does touch the ceiling. If I slouch, I can fit, but it's just not the most spacious back seat. There's also a big hump in the floor that's probably for the transmission tunnel. If this in the XC40. There is a center armrest that folds down to reveal more cup holders, 3-level heated seats back here, which is nice, and you get 2 USB-C chargers. I wouldn't want to sit back here for a long road trip, that's for sure, but you do really get to appreciate this big panoramic sunroof or glass roof, and you can see the Polestar logo, which is projected up onto the roof in the front, which is pretty cool. Driving the Polestar 2 and having now spent a week with this car, my initial complaints have been muted. My complaints about the usability of the cup holders and the design of the center console and all that. I still don't love those things, but they're muted because the driving dynamics of this car are very competent. It starts with the steering. You can adjust the firmness of the steering, light, standard, and firm. And in firm, it is exactly how heavy I prefer my steering. I find it really nice. It's really easy to be dynamic and engaging with this car when you have the firm steering selected, and you don't get like too much feedback through the steering wheel, but the weight of it is exactly what I want. The one pedal driving of the two, which you can turn on and off and also adjust from low to standard, is also really good. I have left it in standard, and it is a very smooth slowdown of the car when you do lift off, and it's very predictable on how fast the car will slow down. And I really haven't had to touch the brakes that many times while driving this car, which is what I want in an electric car. But if you're new to an EV or you're not really a fan of one pedal driving, it is defeatable, and it's just a really good system. Also, when you put this car around a corner, it stays pretty flat. You know, this is taller than a normal sedan, like I've said, but the weight of the batteries really do help anchor it down, so you can corner with some speed. You can also, because this is the rear wheel drive single motor Polestar 2, you can get the tail out, because if in this drive mode setting page, you can turn the traction control off with a single click. And when you do that and you floor it with the wheel turned, you definitely can drift this car. You can have an absolute blast in the two. The suspension also does a great job isolating you from the road. It's not purely comfort-oriented suspension. I would say it is more tuned for dynamics, but dynamics in a comfortable sense still. You notice everything going on with the road, but in a sense that allows you to better perform and better drive down the road. It is an upscale feeling in a car like this, and really makes you feel confident while driving down the road. It just feels like a well-engineered vehicle, and it feels like a very competent chassis. I really do enjoy the chassis of this car. And all of that combined with the instant torque, that this obviously offers, meaning it's pretty quick off the line, and especially when you're already moving and you want to go even faster, you really do rocket forward. And the powertrain being silent and perfectly smooth really does help lend to the upscale, sophisticated demeanor of this vehicle's driving dynamics. The Polestar 2 makes you feel like you are driving a more expensive vehicle. I think electric powertrains in general do have that feeling because they are just so smooth. If you've never driven an electric car, it's hard to describe just how different the feeling of acceleration is than driving a gas car, because there is no drone or groan of the engine. Even if you are driving a nice internal combustion engine vehicle that has like a V8 or even a V12, there is absolutely no vibrations in the car when you accelerate. It is silent and you just get the power. And this vehicle, although it's not the most powerful EV on the road, still 299 horsepower and about 320 pound-feet of torque. Those are still pretty good figures for this size of vehicle, and you get all of that torque instantly. So this car feels really powerful driving it. It feels more powerful than it actually is, but it's also still perfectly smooth. For example, flooring it now and coming around the corner, traction control had to kick in there, but yeah, you feel the acceleration. It's just so smooth, and the car handles and steers so nice. I love the steering of this vehicle when it is in firm mode. It's, again, the perfect weight, and you can just kind of put your foot down and you rocket forward. You can cut through gaps in traffic so easily, and because it isn't that big of a vehicle, you know, the Volvo XC40 is a subcompact luxury crossover, so not very big at all. And this Polestar 2 is obviously more in the sedan category, even though it is lifted and has crossover elements to its proportions. It's still, the amount of power for the size of this vehicle makes it very zippy, especially because it's an EV. Now, I recently spent a week in the new Hyundai Ioniq 6, and I was driving the base Ioniq 6, which was rear-wheel drive, made 225 horsepower. You can also drift that car, by the way. And that one was about $43,000. This one is about $10,000 more. And I will say that the Ioniq 6 was softer in its suspension, had more comfortable seats, and was quieter on the interior. That vehicle was surprisingly, incredibly luxury oriented. It was such a well-engineered chassis. This is definitely a little firmer, but again, it is firmer in a sporty sense, in a purposeful sense. This makes this vehicle more dynamic. This is a far more athletic and performance-oriented vehicle than the Hyundai Ioniq 6 was. Okay, I had to step on the brakes there because I got cut off. But much more performance-oriented than the Hyundai Ioniq 6, which was surprisingly luxurious. But so if you are looking for a pure comfort-oriented EV, that vehicle is actually going to deliver more than this Polestar 2. But if you care about the driving dynamics and you kind of want to have some fun, this Polestar 2 definitely delivers a little more. And it makes sense that this Polestar 2 is so engaging to drive, and that the steering and the suspension are all so well tuned for performance driving, because Polestar started life as Volvo's performance division, and they were then spun off as an all-electric sub-brand. But they have carried over that ethos of sporty, engaging driving into this too. Even this base rear-wheel drive single motor, less than 300 horsepower Polestar 2, it still has all of those attributes. I haven't quite seen 320 miles of range, but probably close to 270, which is still a really healthy figure. I hate that the range is displayed in increments of 10. I don't know why they do that. Polestar, and I think Volvo for their EVs in general, are really against giving you exact figures. For example, when you turn the cruise control on, you can set it to any speed, so let's say 74 miles an hour, but then if you go up, it'll go up to 75 if you press it once. If you press it again, it'll then jump up or jump down in increments of 5, only letting you drive it at like 75, then 80, then 85 miles per hour. It's really strange that they don't let you adjust the cruise control by 1 after you've initially set it. Likewise, when you control the temperature, it will only give you even temperatures that you can adjust between. So right now it's at 68. If I press it up once, now I'm at 70, back down to 68 if I press it once again. Like that, why? Like, why can't I have 69, 71 like degrees Fahrenheit? And then same with the predicted range. It will only show in increments of 10. So I don't get my exact range prediction. It will just kind of jump around. Right now it's at 250. The next thing it'll show is 240. Why? Like, can't I get the exact readouts of all of these measurements, speed, range, and temperature? I don't really understand why they do that. It's a little annoying. And something that is easily fixed with the software. So I hope that they do that maybe with an over-the-air update at some point. So that's the 2024 Polestar 2. This vehicle is a jack of all trades. The best part about it is how it drives, which is a really good thing to say about a car. And the only things I actually don't like about it are pretty minor. But in this super competitive market, the Polestar 2 does nothing the best. There are cars with more range, there are cars that are more luxurious, and there are cars that are more dynamic. It does pretty well in all of those categories, but again, it's not the best. I am really excited to see where Polestar as a company goes. This year, they're releasing the Polestar 3, which is their first ground-up vehicle, so I'm super excited to check that car out and see what the company is able to do with an all-new platform. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.